Welcome back to the 2025 California Open from San Francisco. We are into round 12 and switching over to Collins with a matchup between two of the best known names in the Collins scene. Wellington Jighere, former world, I believe, former world champion. You can confirm or deny that, Jesse, against
Correct.
one of America's top contenders, Ben Schoenbrun from the East Coast. Um, Give us a little bit of what you know about Wellington's game here.
Well, yeah, Wellington is the first and only world champion from the African continent. He's playing out of Nigeria. He won his first world championship in style in Perth, Australia, with a 4-0 sweep. And he's been before and after that world championship. He has competed at the very highest level, and he's really, I think of him as an apex competitor. He's enormously charismatic outside of the board, but across the board, he's an absolute, just laser focused assassin. I don't know how else to put it. He really plays at his peak, or delivers his peak game on demand, and seems impervious to the ups and downs of the game. In certain cases, he's a fierce competitor.
Okay. I didn't quite catch whether he made the blank an N or an S in this case. My hunch would be an N just to. Oh, it did make it an S, I am being told.
Interesting. I would have expected the N there, just to give one fewer letter for Benji to reply with for a bingo. Actually, putting an S out there makes it more likely that bingos go down. So that's surprising to hear.
In this particular case, it does not appear as though it is going to matter, as Benji has drawn the other blank and has plenty of bingos available through any letters that Wellington might have put down, but he has one star play available through the U that covers both double word scores. And we'll give Chad a
And it looks
second.
like he's going to find it. Very nice.
I was going to give Chad a minute to find it, but Benji beat all of us to it, playing Veruke as spotted in the chat for 86 points.
That's outstanding. He found that really, really quickly as well. And he's clearly informed. He's only dropped one game this whole tournament. He's at 10-1, the leader of this field going into this game. And this is a really outstanding find.
And it looks like Wellington is going to give him the 5 bonus points for the challenge here.
That's right. It never hurts to check in the international lexicon, which we've switched over to. The penalty for challenging incorrectly is a mere 5 points, and it never hurts to just verify if a word is a word, because either you lose 5 points or you gain 86 points and you know your opponent's rap. So there's a huge benefit in challenging successfully. So Wellington was probably quite confident that was a word, but he is just making very sure.
And again, not to say that there's no consequences. I have lost enough games by 1 point to dispute that, but it is certain the risk-reward balance is certainly tilted in favor of the person making the challenge, whereas in double challenge play, it's a bit more balanced.
That's right. And we're seeing Wellington with both Ys and 2 Is, I believe, which is a pretty poor combo. And he makes the move relatively quickly. He plays off one of the Ys, which is understandable. But did he keep 2 Is there, or is it an IT?
I can't be completely sure. The top of the racks are cut off a little bit.
It is an ILT one.
Okay.
Oh, you overdid it, Ed. Down. Adjust. Yes. That's better. Okay, yeah. So ILTY is a pretty nice keep, so I can see why you did that. LY has some pretty decent synergy actually. It's kind of one of those low key secret 2-letter combos that actually does quite well in typical simulation.
Over to Benji now with AEFHOPT. It sometimes takes us a second to decipher exactly what tiles Benji is keeping.
Right, I would love to know the psychology behind that. If he's just doing it because he's totally indifferent to it. Has he trained himself? Is it a stylistic thing?
Is he just trolling us?
Exactly.
Um,
All of the above.
Looks like I would be looking to put out 2 of my 3 high pointers here. Something like Faux or FOP, forming FEE. Looks reasonable.
Right, I would also think about FOP there. Tell me about Benji as a competitor in North America.
I haven't had the opportunity to play him as much as you might think. We're on opposite coasts and really only see each other at nationals. I think we've played maybe twice in his previous visits to the CO. But he can be, you know, he has a propensity to play quickly, which can hurt him at times, but can also be a help against the right opponent. But yeah, he definitely knows his words, is passionate about the game, is a fiery competitor. He will not, you know, he will make you earn your victories, which I think is something you like to say about almost all of the top players in a field like this.
Yeah, I could see him as a future North American champion. I think he's kind of on that cusp. He's really honed his game over the years. The really deep vocabulary knowledge. I agree with your assessment.
So,
I think FOH is about to go down here. That would be my guess. And he can do FOH, which is an interjection of contempt or scoff. Oh, he puts out FOP. That's understandable.
which, given that Foe takes an N hook that he doesn't have. Of course, FOP takes an S hook he doesn't have, but maybe he likes the synergy of AEHT a little bit better. Wellington is going to quickly respond with his only playable bingo of senility through the N.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, getting out of the IIY with speed and score, taking a 60-point lead early on. And Benji has unfortunately drawn IUW to his otherwise promising leave.
Yeah, we talked about Benji playing fast, which is, I agree, one of his notable characteristics as a player. It's also worth mentioning that Wellington can play extremely fast when he chooses to, and this could be a scorcher. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that our clocks are updating. But this is one of those games where I don't really expect time pressure to be a massive differentiator. A lot of the Nigerian players or the Nigerian contingent are known for their pace or playing with pace. I have heard that domestic tournaments could be with 22-minute or 23-minute clocks, which could be part of it. But I don't really have a great explanation for. I've just observed in my matches with my Nigerian opponents that many of them play quite fast. And Wellington, I think what I appreciate about Wellington is he has that gear, but he can also play deliberately when necessary, and he has the ability to change gears as required by the situation.
Right. If you finish with 10, 12 minutes left on your clock in a game where you had a bunch of bingos and relatively easy decisions, that's understandable. If you finished with 12 minutes in a game that was really close and had a lot of difficult, low scoring plays and tricky decisions, you probably screwed up somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I'm a slow player myself, so I advocate using your time. So I'm obviously very biased, but I tend to agree with you.
So, Benji, considering his options here, holding
He
two
can
tiles in his hand.
he can make plays making SH, and he could even play something like Hag. I believe is quite poor, but he could play Hag for 30 points. It's quite blocky, which may be ideal given that I think he's trailing by a bit here, so he probably wants to keep things relatively open. It is quite difficult to find a way to play off. You really want to play off the W and the U in an ideal world. He could do whoop to the P, WHUP, but that would get back some scoring because the W would be in the triple word score lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be what I would be looking at personally. But
he comes up with an interesting idea here of Weiss
very
forming
nice.
Saiyan, setting up his T for the next turn.
Oh, that's super cool. Really requires some tricky elite word knowledge to even notice the spot. And wow, Cat comes down almost instantaneously. Wellington not in the mood to trifle. I think he probably sees the twice hook getting created and decides to immediately nip that in the bud.
Mm.
But I don't know what his alternatives were, but I wonder if that was a bit hasty.
Well, the only other way to really score with the Q would have been cots and fops, but leaving the Q above the triple is just begging to get answered for 40 to 50.
What if he just played QI himself and kept fasten, drawing one tile to that? Because you have a decent possibility of if you draw a vowel, like if you draw an I, you could draw faintest. You draw a T, you could draw fattens. I don't know if it's a great chance, but I would have at least thought about it.
It's certainly a compelling option. Might be more drawn to it if I were trailing by 40 instead of ahead by 40. Just because at this point, if he keeps scoring, he should be okay. Although it is awfully early in the game to really start considering offense, defense, time in game, etc. So, interesting point of debate. I don't know which way I would go.
I'm not sure myself. I'm just presenting it as an alternative to consider.
Ben here with a further ugly draw, ABDHTUV. Again, wanting to clear multiple of these high point tiles along with the U. Something like hub alongside fop jumps out to me.
Right. Another of the most classically unsynergetic combinations in our game, the UV combo, which is a real headache because it's often hard to play them both off on the same turn. He could play Bath and SH, but that keeps both the U and the V, which is undesirable as mentioned. I think Hub looks pretty decent to me. He could also play Bud and Buy, but it's not really clear that there's anything about that that's better. A butt in the same spot keeps DHV, which I would say is too many consonants. Keeping the H is actually quite nice because then he can score next turn at the SH spot that we've already mentioned a few times. So
Mm-hmm.
I think something like Bud is defensible. Bud and buy. Let's see what he ends up with.
Yeah. Again, these are racks worth spending a bit of time on, though. If those clocks are accurate and Benji's is running beyond that, he's used almost half of his clock, and Wellington has used less than 3 minutes.
Right.
So that time pressure you were mentioning earlier could become a factor in one direction. And if you see your opponent taking time in the early turns to make their plays, does that make you a little bit more inclined to try to press them on that front?
Definitely. One of the dirty secrets of fast players in Scrabble is, in my experience, most of them do very poorly under time pressure themselves. Many people do not like being under time pressure, and their way of avoiding it is by training themselves to play quickly. So it's not everyone is like that, but I've had that experience before where I've gotten a fast player into some time trouble because they're in an unusually tricky position, and they often don't really know how to react because they're not there that often. It's interesting. A butt went down. I think we mentioned that. I mentioned that there were potentially too many constants with it, but it does keep that SH place, so there's at least a path to cleaning this up, and it scores decently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a reasonable choice, but Wellington has been waiting to pounce with his blow of softened. He had fondest on his rack. The 7-letter word did not play, but softened was available to him, and you can see him sitting there, not shuffling his tiles and waiting to close the jaws of the trap. And Benji's road to victory gets steeper. Benji has an interesting play here of Hagdon, Hagdon, which I believe is a kind of coach. I don't know that it's not a board opening play, but it scores pretty nicely. I think it would score 45 points, but he's telescoped in on the play to the S. That's also very understandable because Wellington could score a lot of points there. And Wellington, oh my goodness, Wellington has another bingo. I don't think he's going to miss this one. He is all right. And Benji's going to feel not all right after this one comes down. And Wellington doesn't even waste any time. 3 minutes on the clock. I guess it's not updated, but it doesn't feel like he's used more than 3 or 4 minutes. Sometimes the tile gods just smile at you. The one saving grace for Benji is all right does take a Y on the back for alrighty. It does not. Oh, my mistake. I thought alrighty. That's right. Gratefully is all right plus a Y. My bingo knowledge fails me again as a commentator. So yeah, all right is going to go down.
It definitely does feel like alrighty should have made it into the dictionary by now. Both Ys have been played, so it's kind of a moot point in this case, but
I think in hindsight, not playing Hagdon is obviously we have 2020 hindsight, but Benji kind of needed the volatility of keeping the S open, perhaps. And Hagdon would have scored 45 in a corner of the board that was already kind of dead. And
right.
Of course, if Wellington didn't bingo, he would have just played Laths or something to the S. So realistically, Benji was in quite a bit of trouble anyway. But I just wonder if Hagdon could have left things a little more volatile.
I mean, you are shutting down a couple of potential bingo lanes through the L or the S of senility, but
you're even opening some sevens because SH you can play you can make that into SHE, SHO, SHA. So anyway, it's kind of moot. But I think that does reflect the cumulative impact of Wellington's fast play and time pressure that I think Benji felt compelled to play Oda's with pace and probably didn't look around too much else or at too many other plays. Maybe Oda's would have been his choice regardless, but it is a kind of a signal of what cumulative time pressure can accomplish and why players choose to play fast.
So Wellington now kind of pausing for breath, reassessing the situation with my score will update properly for me. 101-point lead. 6 vowels on his rack. Plenty of places open. And he will opt for Alway to, or however that's pronounced.
I don't know either.
AUE for 21 to block off the bingos through all right.
A very reasonable move. 100 points is an interesting margin. There used to be in the North American game, there was an old heuristic that 100 points was roughly where your margin of victory, or that's roughly where your lead became comfortable. But in the Collins game, with there being more high scoring plays, more bingos, I think 100 is there was sort of the learning that 100 points is no longer a safe margin in the international game. But yes, so Wellington taking a defensive step with AUE, trying to block some bingo lanes. There are some 7-letter bingos that can fit on the second row because RAI or SAI are valid, but Benji did not have any of those. He simply takes scoring play, keeps himself in range, and actually Wellington almost looks closer to a bingo. In fact, he has blocked his own bingo because he could have played Esoteric or Coteries. That's a fun pair right there.
Mm-hmm.
But neither of them play, so Wellington.
There were 2 T's wide open. Wellington booked one, and Benji, although I'm sure this was not his primary reason for playing Van, blocked the other.
That's right. So that's some consolation for Benji there. He won't know it, but he has inadvertently left himself in range. In Wellington, this is the kind of spot where, in my experience, I've seen Wellington apply some pretty good high-level strategy and go with something more defensive. He's not the kind of person to, in my experience, to chase for bingos while he has a lead. He's very principled and strategic in his play, and he's deeply experienced also at the highest level, it must be said.
And in the words of the late great Lester Schoenbrun, at some point you have to stop trying to bingo and start trying to win the game.
That's excellent. I miss Lester. He was in the book Word Freak, one of the all-time greats. And Mike and I had the privilege of crossing paths with him in the Bay Area, where he was a stalwart. He and his wife Joan made it to just about every tournament. I really relished playing Lester. He was actually my most played opponent for a minute, and just a real gentleman and pioneer of the game.
Yeah. Over to Benji now with a 108-point deficit. The UW back on his rack.
He's certainly, if he's going to find a way to come back in this one, the Tau gods have certainly not made it easy for him.
I would be looking for some way to get to the east triple from the O of Echo. It doesn't appear as though there's a good way to do that.
I like East Triple. I think that's a really good. I've
Well,
never heard that
southeast,
phrase one.
southeast in this case, but yes.
Southeast. I've been enjoying your use of that
Yeah.
terminology. I'm going to try to popularize it.
Yeah.
Right. He really just needs to clean things up and hope that he draws into a bingo while also hoping that the board doesn't shut down before he has time to get to his bingo. I don't see anything particularly enjoyable that helps him get to this objective.
Yeah, one of my thoughts was something like skew to the from the S of senility, but with only two E's left. I can understand not wanting to get rid of it. He goes with the online inspired PWN.
Yes, excellent. It's an interesting play because it almost blocks his best place to bingo, which was arguably that second row hooking AI. So he has cleaned up his rack quite a bit, but at the cost of tightening the board for himself. So it's a painful trade-off to have to make, but it seems like a reasonable decision in the circumstances.
Wellington quickly responding with ISO, cleaning up a rack with 7 1-pointers that did not bingo. Back over to Benji, who draws reasonably. ADEDKLU. This is sort of rack that feels like it's one good draw away from bingoing if you make the right sort of play.
Right. A natural play here would be Kagu and up, and that is what he's doing. But it actually further blocks some of the bingo lanes that he was hoping to use, the O, the D, the A, and I guess it's an irresistible number of points. But we have to ask the question of if he draws a bingo, where is it going to go?
I suppose there's the T of all right, the L of senility. Bingos still play from the D if you can get a couple of underlaps from the D of Odas. But I think he's focused more on making sure that if he does draw the bingo that and gets to play it, that it's enough to get him back into either the lead or at least a winnable end game.
Right. That's a pretty interesting decision, and I think a lot of players in this position get fixated just on bingoing and not on keeping the score manageable. So by the time, if you spend 4 or 5 turns and you finally bingo, you're probably still going to lose, right? So I think there's a lot of merit to Benji's approach here. And yeah, let's see if it pays off. He's kept things interesting.
Wellington now with the unplayable Orioles on this rack. 6 in the bag, leading by 78. The J, X, and Z are all yet to be played.
Right. So Wellington is probably thinking, well, there aren't a lot of bingo lanes, but actually it's very possible for my opponent to chase me down with a series of high-scoring plays. I wonder if he might play something like Alu, parable to Oda, which would be 21 points. And it blocks the most obvious spot for the X. Another concern is the O conceivably could be the O at the bottom right could be a way for Benji to score with a power tile.
Right, something like Uzier.
Or Oxhide. I don't know if that if the H is available, but in fact it's not. But something oxides, even something of that ilk. So, but I don't see a great way of blocking that O. So my guess would be he's going to leave that alone and play something at the top left just to block the most conspicuous scoring spot.
Yeah, something like a Lou or only O.
I thought he had Leah, Lea. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Actually, that OL is not a word. one of the many two-letter combinations that is not a word. So I wonder where he might up putting that. That is interesting.
There is a very tricky spot that is actually the top engine play, playing LEA on column G, forming feel, neat, and a buy, which scores 25 for 3 1-point tiles, which
I see. That's what he spotted. Yes. Very nice.
that's the sort of thing you want to do, and leaving 3 in the bag is probably the right endgame time, although it does make it easy for Benji to then fish off 2 tiles and leave 1 in the bag in a tricky endgame to solve.
Right. The end of this game got here quite kind of quickly. There's only a few moves less per side. Yeah, that's a really nice play. I know we talked about, or I mentioned Oleo or Alu at the top left as a blocking play, but this is also great because it just scores nicely, even if Benji gets the next play down right now. It's still, I would say, quite difficult for Benji to catch up and chase Wellington down.
So
In fact, most of the time, Benji is not going to want to empty the bag. So there's a substantial benefit in Scrabble to being the first person to go out. And when you take the last letters from the tile bag, and let's say 7 letters versus 7 letters, usually the opponent who plays first is going to go out first. And at that point, you also get whatever points are left on your opponent's rack. So he's just going to play 2 tiles here to not empty the bag, quote unquote. And he can't draw Uzier, which is interesting. I wonder if he is thinking about drawing something like Trill Bead from the T.
Yeah,
that's one possible bingo that he could draw here, or Elitable, actually, also through the L. Although he would need a second L to accomplish that, and he's gone with ticks instead. Interesting.
Trying to reopen a line, for something starting DI on that O column.
But what specific words could he draw there? I don't necessarily see what he is threatening. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I just don't see anything exactly that. It looks promising, but I don't know what. The only thing I have seen that he could have drawn was Trill Bead, which the aforementioned Trill Bead.
In any case, ticks is what. Maybe he's trying to draw something starting with the E. But it doesn't appear as though it doesn't appear as the tiles lay that anything would have worked, because Wellington has not drawn either the J or the Z, so Benji was always going to end up with one of them.
I guess could he have drawn Oilbird? No, because he had the E, right?
Right.
Ticks is actually a big concession. Well, it's just XI, which he had lined up, was 33. Ticks is 7 less.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he has spotted something that a possibility that we did not identify.
Yeah, and there's also the school of thought that says, when in doubt, create chaos. Give your opponent something else new to think about. Even if you're not likely to draw something that hits that spot, your opponent may not know that, and may be faced with a decision where they have to guess between 2 lines which one to block, and maybe they guess wrong.
I also wonder what would drawing Uzier be enough to win? Probably not, right? Because he's down by
Yeah, Uzier by
60 or
itself would
70
tie the
points.
game,
Hmm.
and
So he really does. I guess I see it now. He really does need a massive bingo, and I suppose ticks. At least maybe he could have drawn not idolized because he had the B. It is frankly hard to figure out how, even if things went perfectly for him, how he would have managed to steal this one away.
yeah, curiously, according to a quick Quackle sim, which is not nearly perfect in non-bag emptying end games, but can be a good guidepost. Curiously, I think because of the oil bird possibility, Tex may have been better than Tix,
Right.
counterintuitively.
However, Tex doesn't play on the right side of of uh, Oilbird would not have played on the right side of Tex because EO and or EXO are not words.
Right,
So it still
but
it
it would have
dampens
been
how
on the
much I could bingo for.
it would have played on the left, but and if Wellington had made more, if Wellington in this position, holding the rank he has, had been forced to, drop the J somewhere for 10 or something like that, maybe that could be enough. But
Right.
again,
Do we know the tile in the bag, by the way?
the way if I am looking at the ranks correctly, it should be the J.
Wow. So I don't know that there's any threats in the bag that Wellington will be scared of. I suppose he's allocating a bit of time here to just to optimize his endgame sequence and make sure that he can do something promising, whether even if he draws the Z or if he draws the J. If he could play off OSV, he could leave himself with the possibility of Uzier, which would be painful for Benji to deal with, although Benji actually drew the Z. I think he should be optimizing for being able to go out next turn, actually. So he might want to play a longer move this turn and then try to leave himself an outplay. For instance, he could play something like Cyber, making is an XI. And it leaves OO, which is not conventionally good, but then you have a plan. You draw the B, the D, the L, the R, the Z. You have outplays. You draw the J. You threaten Dojo at the top left.
Mm.
And you have JO as a backup. I think I actually like Cyber here. It's not very obvious, but it's the kind of play I would try to make a longer scoring play here that such that I can just go out next turn. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that seems certainly reasonable. You're sorry there. You're essentially playing 8 end games at once.
That's
in a
right.
lot of ways.
Some expert level. I mean, another reasonable thing is for him to play Vo, KO, and AE or something like that. But then you have more. It's actually harder to get out next turn because you have more tiles. You do have the Abi's hook if you do that. So you could play out with Rojis and Abi's, Azoris and Abi's, Byros. Actually, that's not bad at all. And maybe that is what he will do.
Is there any argument for trying to get greedy on spread and fish off the O, trying to hit a bingo of your own?
Right. The question is, where is it going to go? but yeah, he should definitely at least consider it, and maybe that's what he was thinking about. After all, he's trailing in the tournament. He's going to win this game, but he wants to be able to catch Benji on spread, or to be able to outrun him if the rest of the tournament goes well. So absolutely, he should be thinking that. And he's played Revo, which is similar to the plays we talked about, where it's going to go very nicely with the J, because he's going to draw Joe's outplay that he can threaten, and Benji. Abide is a recent lexicon update. It used to be only the obscure Abot, but he's left a huge play for Wellington to go out, overlapping the Z. And I have to wonder why he did that. Because I think he probably had some better blocking plays.
According to Quackle, that is in fact Bentley's best play, because the spot he gave for JOES does not matter, because Wellington had more points elsewhere as JOE for 42.
Nice. That's really nice. And just a really elegant end of game sequence that you saw Wellington show a touch of class there by taking a few extra minutes to map that out. Very cool.
So I know our score, it just did update finally to 497, 382, and that is the final score. Let's see if we can listen in for a couple minutes. Okay, apparently we're not going to get any post-game commentary from these two. So that concludes the morning session here at the California Open. We will be back from our lunch break sometime around 2:45 to 3 o'clock Pacific, I believe. I will get confirmation of that time. I will have 4 more games this afternoon, and then 4 more games tomorrow morning, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I've had it confirmed we're restarting the stream at 2:45 p.m. Pacific. That's about an hour and 20 minutes from now. In the meantime, we encourage you, if you want more Scrabble action, to jump over to the Let's Play Scrabble stream, twitch.tv/Let's Play Scrabble, where the holiday party in Belleville, Ontario is ongoing, and coverage from there will be streaming live, hopefully with slightly better quality of camera and scorekeeping work than we have. I will be stepping out of the booth for the afternoon. Jesse and I believe Ed and Josh Sokol will be taking you through the afternoon. Any final words before we head off to lunch, Jesse?
No, we're setting up for a fun ending to this tournament. Things are heating up. We're in the middle portion. We're sort of seeing who the contenders are. Wellington taking down Benji to prevent him from running away with it and building a good margin. But the action should just get better and more significant as things get down to crunch time here. So I'm very excited to do more of these games.
All righty. So we will step aside for players to have a lunch break as well. For Jesse Day and all of us on the stream team, I'm Mike Frentz. We will see you in an hour and 20 minutes for round 13 from the